Well, we're back at it, and we didn't have to wait too long for there to be more drama in this England versus New Zealand series. It turns out we just needed the cricket to stop for that to happen. On England's side, we've had a few broken curfews to consider, a few punches thrown, the need for curfews questioned, and an emphasis on don't worry, this side is not a national embarrassment. I'm not sure what other sport or team could ever have that headline, but, hey ho. On New Zealand's side, we've quietly had the greatest batter of all time called it quits, which strangely feels like a footnote in this never-ending baseball saga. Also, speaking of New Zealand, turns out not just the boys know how to drop catches. It's episode 3 of Nick and Nurdle, and we're here to cover off the second Test match preview at the Oval, along with the retirement of Kane Williamson, the situation with Benjamin Stokes, New Zealand at the Women's 2020 World Cup, and anything else we want to talk about, because after all, it is our show. But first of all, good evening, Tails. How you going, mate?
Good, Gabo. Lovely intro, back to back now, making a real name for yourself as a tone setter, as Michael Vaughan would say. Kane retirement, very big news. Obviously, the Stokes and Atkinson situation, not ideal. Bit of a reoccurring pattern there, but do they need a curfew after they've won a test match? That seems sort of like it goes against everything that cricket's sort of about. Yeah, so that's an interesting one. Hopefully it's not the end for Stokes. Would be a real shame if that's how things finish for him. He's, been a good leader for them, and obviously had a pretty special career as well. You hope that he's sort of backing into it, which it sounds like he will be. I know there's sort of a few speculations around a potential retirement, that he's sort of taken his bat and ball home and saying, no, I don't want to play anymore, which, hopefully that's not the case. But lots happening, very, very dramatic scenes. Kane, very understated, very Kane in terms of the way that he's retired. Not that surprising. Yeah, I think obviously for some people there's that thing that he wasn't that far away from 10,000 runs, would have been cool for a New Zealand batter. Probably the last New Zealand batter to have an opportunity to get 10,000 runs. Not sure with the current landscape that someone will go close to that in the future. But I think he's earned the right to go out on his own terms and do it his way. So you can't begrudge him for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think spot on in regards to the very Kane way about it. I think apparently it was a coffee and a catch-up was the message in the group chat, and lo and behold, it wasn't just a coffee and a catch-up. But we'll get to that, and there will be much made of his career now and in the next couple of months and over the next couple of years. It does leave a very large hole in the New Zealand lineup, unfortunately. But these things happen, I'm afraid. People of our generation, I speak for myself here, we remember when Ponting retired or Shane Warne retired or Sachin retired. Has that same kind of feel. It's very much like a landmark milestone. It's a new era, and we're all getting old, I'm afraid, and our great players have to move on at some point. But we'll get to that. But first things first, let's talk about the second test at the Oval. So after the reset, which lasted one game, we seem to probably be on the cusp of another reset with baseball, likely going to double down on what we've come to know and quote-unquote love. But these guys, the pitch at the Oval has been known to be very flat, not just with the test matches, but also with the county stuff over there. And it seems unlikely, given the 11 they've picked, that they'll go away from that baseball style. So England have named their team already. So we've got Duckett, Gay, Bethel, Root as captain, Brooke, Jamie Smith, Jordan Cox, debut, Jofra, Tung, Fisher, first game since 2022. I think it might have been the last game pre the baseball era, and Sonny Baker on debut as well. So no Stokes, Atkinson, Robinson, or Bashir. So obviously Stokes we know what's going on there, but he is apparently going to play for Durham against Northants on Friday. I don't know about Atkinson though. Have you heard anything about Atkinson? I haven't seen anything.
Haven't heard about Atkinson. I don't hate it. I think guys going back and playing, for their domestic teams, I think that's a good thing. Domestic players going back playing for their club teams is kind of interesting that he's playing, given that he's been stood down. That's do with that what you will. Yeah, there's a couple of interesting things there. Obviously, Ollie Robinson missing out, where the general consensus was fitness was one of the reasons he was dropped initially. That's a little side note that I was listening to Stuart Broad on his podcast with Joss Butler, and they were sort of talking about it. It was obviously recorded earlier in the week that, well, his real test will come in 5 or 6 tests time when he's, tired in the legs and they're on a flat wicket and that sort of thing. And it's obviously come a little bit earlier than that. Sonny Baker looks to be quite an exciting prospect. Good airspeed, good pace. There'll be a fair bit of pace in that England attack. It'll be interesting to see how Jofra turns up. Jordan Cox is interesting. He got a big double 100 during the week, and they seem to like that kind of maverick style player coming in at 7, someone who can take the game on and really change the direction of it. So yeah, and he's a guy who's been on the cusp of playing Test cricket for a little while. Like, I think he's been called into squads and just missed out. And so, yeah, it's sort of interesting that the fact he missed out initially, obviously being at the IPL, you felt a little bit for him that a couple of guys had leapfrogged him, but the fact he now gets his chance to come in and do the business. Feel a little bit for James Rue, although he might play if Smith's unavailable with paternity leave, but I think they sort of prefer that maverick style player coming in there, that he'll sort of slot in more if there's one of the more traditional batting spots, should we say. Yeah, so interesting things there. Root and Bethel to bowl the spin overs. Does sound like bounce will play a little bit of a factor at the Oval as well. Yeah,
especially if it's flat. You need guys who can bend the back and send it down at decent pace. You mentioned, Jordan Cox. I think he was scheduled to debut in Wellington.
Yeah,
when Bethel got the nod. I think he hurt himself in the warm-ups or something like that on training before that. And then Bethel got a crack. I think he made a 90, batting at 3 at the Basin. So, yeah, it's good to see him back. And I think you're right. He does fit that. I'm going to keep referring to it, that kind of baseball mold. Basically, you look at the guys like Duckett, Brook, Bethel, Jamie Smith. These guys are there to basically disrupt. And if you look at the last test match, I know the pitch was, rated unsatisfactory by the ICC, but it was a bit of a shocker. So guys that can get in there and make a quick fire 30-40 might be the difference. We saw that at Boxing Day Test match as well, and that's kind of where New Zealand probably missed a trick, probably being a little bit too conservative, which, we're actually hyping up Bazball at this point, but I think, he'll probably slot in quite nicely there. But also, whether Jofra will turn up, it's a good way to put it. He will, and I'm sure he'll go really well. But they've got a decent side, even with all those changes. I think there's about 24 test matches in that bowling lineup. I think Jofra probably hits the most, followed by Tongue. But it'll be interesting to see how they go. And Robinson with a knee, I'm not sure if it's like just a freak accident that might have happened, or whether it is just general fitness. He wasn't tested that much in that first test match. Obviously bowled very little, considering the game was done and dusted in about 2.5 days combined. But it seems like old habits die hard potentially, and he could be back in that frame of in and out of the side with fitness, which not always the best place to be, especially when there's a pretty hectic, workload on the test guys on the England side most summers. Anything else on that side? No Bashir. So that probably tells you what the pitch is going to do. They've, brought in the spinner for the first game, didn't bowl any spin, and then this time it's like, we've got to leave him out, which probably says enough about New Zealand's potential even as well.
I do wonder if they might play centre. Just if it's a flat, a little bit of optionality there.
Yeah, and just before we go on to New Zealand side, James Reed could be in there for Jamie Smith, which, as a side note, the man looks like he's about 12 years old. So the fact he's got a second child on the way is neither here nor there. But where would
can't really comment on those sort of things.
That's okay. Okay. We like to speculate from time to time, and that's not a problem. So with that said, it looks like a very Bazball-y team. You think back to that game against Sri Lanka, or that series against Sri Lanka when they picked Josh Hull in there. Not too fussed about the bowling experience, provided they've got the batting depth that I think they do in that side. So we kind of see how things are going to play out in that game, but I think England's way of working might be unchanged. So New Zealand, potential 11, I'll read it out. obviously Latham, Conway, who's back in England after second child, I think, which is cool for Devon. Yeah, Nichols/Young at 3. Nichols is a spare bat, but Will Young's probably a more natural number 3, unless they give Nichols a bit of a license to go and have a crack, given that it's a bit of a, just going to go and find out whether he's got what it takes to bat 3 for an interim role while number 3 is found. Neither one of those guys is at the start of their career, put it that way. Rutchin at 4, Daryl Mitchell 5, Blundell 6, probably done enough to stay there. GP 7, Nathan Smith, Jamieson, Henry O'Rourke. Henry is bowling, but if Sander were to play, who doesn't play in that line?
Ooh, that's a very tough question.
It might have to be Henry if he's not fit, or could go down again. We don't want that. Like, that's the worst part, is they start and they get a couple of overs in and then they're no good. And then you've got 10 guys.
I think before the last 2 test matches, it probably would have been Nathan Smith. I don't think you can drop him after taking back-to-back sixes.
Nathan Ellis again.
Apologies, yeah. Look at me doing a Mel Jones.
Of course.
Yeah, I think it would probably come down to if there's any stiffness, soreness, I think that's probably how they would work that out. I don't think it would be a case of, it'd be very, very tricky to pick the best 3 of those 4. The number 3 conversation's interesting. Henry Nichols did get that 100. Admittedly, it was against Zimbabwe batting at 3. The argument for him, and I tend to agree that on face value, I think Will Young's attributes are slightly more suited to the number 3 role. Nichols had a heck of a domestic summer where he batted 3 for Canterbury and he averaged high 90s and he scored close to just shy of 1,000 runs. I think Will Young, he played less games, but he's averaging 22 or something like that. Probably just the volume of hundreds. Like Nichols does have, close to 10 international hundreds under his belt. That's got to count for something. I think even if Young's natural attributes are probably more suited, I think Nichols probably's earned the right for an opportunity. I mean, he probably doesn't have too many more chances up his sleeve at his age, but yeah, again, the guy who's sort of gone back to it and worked pretty hard and put up the performances and done really well for Canterbury. There's not much more that you can ask of him. Yeah, I would say he's earned that opportunity at this stage.
Just want to put something else out there in that conversation. All of those points are pretty spot on, but if Nichols plays, our top 4 are all left-handers. So it could be worth playing a right-hander in there just to break up a little bit of the one-way approach with our top order. I think Jofra would prefer to have the 4 lefties at the crease, either going around the wicket or over. And I think that given what Will Young did in India a couple of years ago as Kane's replacement, essentially, at 3, also counts for something. But there's also, is there an international test match 100 in Will Young at this point? Probably there is.
Absolutely.
He's running out of opportunities to do it.
He has got a couple of international hundreds in one day cricket.
Yep, no problem. That's noted, but I just think that could be who knows which way they go. I think you're right. Like, Nichols has got the right of reply, probably first cab off the rank, but I wouldn't mind seeing Will Young in there as even if it's just a right-hander at the top of that order.
That is a fair point in terms of how they line up. Does scoring runs and dust bowls in India, and does that translate to the Oval and Trent Bridge? I'm not sure, but he is he's made stuff, right? He's got a fair bit of medal and obviously a very skilled player. Tricky, like there's probably parallels to Jamie Howe from years gone by, where very talented, technically very correct, but just for whatever reason, just hasn't been able to convert those starts. And it probably does get to a point like Shane Watson comes to mind, where he had that horrific run of, well, not horrific, like it was good, but he like 80s and 90s, and it took him forever to get 100. And probably, like his first class stats are very similar, whereas conversion rate isn't great. I think it might be like 15 first class hundreds and 40 odd 50s, or something like 12 first class hundreds and 48 50s or something like that. But yeah, I mean, like the guy can play, no doubt, very good in the field. Like I think there's, if you're looking for someone to take some catches at backward point, I think he's got a couple of speckies in his highlight reel. Yeah, I wouldn't have an issue if they went that way, but I just feel, yeah, in terms of that performance that Nichols has put up, he's probably earn his chance.
No, fair enough. Be interesting to see where they go. Back to the Santner conversation. I'm not sure they'll play a spinner, honestly. I would like to see Mitch get more game time, and he's really, really valuable as a all rounder in this side. And if it's not him and Henry's no good, does Tickner come in? Does Zach Folks come in? Because you think about Matt Henry would probably open the bowling, right? So you're probably looking at Nathan Smith and Jamison to open. Tickner will probably be the Wagner style bowler, probably send down a few bumpers if required. Zach Folks probably more of a seam option, a little bit less airspeed. Tickner might get a go. Did okay against the Irish. He got a 5 run in that second innings.
I think he would probably be ahead of Folks at this stage. I think particularly, I mean, the one thing that is in Folks' side is he has got better batting credentials than Tickner. I think with Smith and Jamison, that if you doesn't come into it that much when you're looking for a 10 or 11, right? So yeah, might not help him out with the selection, but I think if they're picking the next best seamer at this stage, it probably is Tickner. Yeah, so there'll be good opportunity for him if it does fall that way. But yeah, hopefully Henry's fit, because if he's fit and firing, he's a point of difference, right?
Absolutely. And to a point I made last time, Zach Crawley must just be absolutely punching walls or doing something, because the one time New Zealand rock up, Matt Henry's not there, and he completely dominated last time. I think just in general, England did enough across the three disciplines. At Lords, they were just better with the bat, just better with the ball, and held their catches. I think if there's out of 40 wickets, 24 are going down through Abu Dhabi and bowled, that leaves 16, 2 each against two sides, and if you're dropping 4 catches out of the 8 that are coming away, you're not going to win many games. And it was basically the difference with Emilio Gay and Harry Brook. So that's what they're going to do better. Obviously, they know that, and they'll probably be fine, but yeah, but it really is just black and white. And as we saw on Boxing Day, guys that can just go there and get a quick fire, 40, not even a quick fire, just hanging there for a 40 odd, that can sometimes just be the difference. And yeah, top order need to be a bit better than what they were, but hopefully on a better wicket, they'll get more of an opportunity. Anything else on the second test match? Obviously, revenge tour still in play, but yeah, much bigger result required. But yeah, anything else on the second test match?
No, not at this stage. I think that mostly covers it. Yeah, the one probably could probably count himself a little bit unlucky to miss out on the squad with Henry Crocombe coming in as cover for Robinson. Matt Potts took 8 in the second innings for Durham in their last game, 8 for 66, I think, and 10 for the match. Yeah, would be one to possibly feel a little bit aggrieved that he's not in that conversation.
Did Potts get a go at the Ashes?
He did. He got a go in the last game, and it wasn't pretty. I think he went the distance. Yeah, sounds maybe like sort of long stints net bowling, not that much game time, coming at the end of a long series where, yeah, it's one thing bowling in the nets, but actually match overs under the belt weren't there, and just a little bit, pedestrian, which you felt from it. I don't think the wicket suited his style of bowling either. So he's one of those county guys that Stuart Broad just thinks could have taken a hatful at Lords.
Yep, exactly. Put him in an England shirt and he would have taken 10 for. All right, let's talk about Kane. Now, obviously, there's going to be a lot of chat between now and probably for the rest of time, but it goes without saying that this is just a huge, huge change coming up for the New Zealand side. I don't really need to talk about stats, honestly. Everyone knows who this guy is and how good he was, but just a couple of big things stick out in my mind in Kane's career that I can remember. It's a double ton against Sri Lanka and Wellington 2014. I think we were on the ropes in that game. I think we were down and out. I think he came back with Watling and scored a massive score and massive partnership. And I think Mark Craig, shout out Mark Craig, ended up cleaning up the Sri Lankan middle order. in the fourth innings. I think Matt Henry might have been playing, maybe not, I can't remember. Australia 2015, back-to-back tons at the Gabba and at the Wacker. Granted, the Wacker was 600 plays 600, but that was that 290 from Ross Taylor as well. And that was, I think, the first opportunity that Aussie had seen this guy in their own backyard, and to be bossing around an attack like Stark, Johnson, Hazelwood, and maybe Nathan Lyon was knocking about as well, maybe Mitch Marsh in there, but massive scores, and it was great to see. It was a bit of a throwback to, excuse me, the days of the 4 centuries. Like 2001, was it Fleming, Astle, Vincent, and Perori? You don't really see it very often, and when you do see New Zealand guys score, ton up in Aussie, it's really a really good sight. And he and Ross Taylor were just streets hit everyone else on that side at the time. 2019 World Cup, obviously massive runs, but also just keeping your head in the most ridiculous circumstances in the final. There was a game in 2021, I think it was, against West Indies. It might have been at Seddon Park, where I think he may have got his highest score, and almost second highest score, and he got like 250. And it was just men against boys stuff. And it was like, this guy is just so good. And it was, to quote the grey cricketer, a lot of safety with this guy. You take that out, and this is a monumental change for New Zealand cricket. And obviously we know the capabilities, but we won't know the impacts for while the side rebuilds around Kane.
Yeah. I mean, there's countless sort of moments. A real coming of age in my mind for him was that famous knock against the South Africans at the Basin, where Dale Steyn sort of got him with a good one, so to speak. And he I think there's now a business sort of working off the back of that. But
yep. He was great Alex involved, mate.
Yeah, where he got that 100 not out in pretty trying circumstances. I think back to the 2015 World Cup against the Aussies as well, Eden Park, where I think he might have got 50, but hit that final ball for 6, well, not final ball, but hit a ball for 6 to win the game, batting with Trent Boult in that low-scoring thriller, 9 down. One of the ones that weirdly sticks out, like most of my memories about him is playing a Test cricket, was a random T20 game. It might have been at Seddon Park against Zimbabwe back in the day, where we needed something like 20, 21, 22, or maybe like 19 off the last over. Like, it was a lot. And there'd always been a lot made about his T20 batting. Like when he first started playing for Northern Districts, like he was batting 3 in red ball cricket and one-day cricket, and then he's batting like 9 or 10 in their T20 side and opening the bowling some somewhat suspicious off spin.
Absolute scenes. I need to find a scorecard with Kane Williamson batting at 10. That is insane.
But he ended up chasing the runs and just like placed the ball magnificently. Like, I think he might have hit 1-6 where it's gone over extra cover in the gap, just cleared the boundary. But he's just threaded the gap, and he's hit pretty much every ball. I think he's hit every ball in the overs to the boundary. And you're like, this guy is just different. It's not like Chris Gale kind of planting 4 balls out of the stand kind of stuff. It was, threading it through cover. It was clipping it down through fine leg. It was all cricket shots, and just such pure batting, and just a guy who did the fundamentals so well, played the ball so late. Like, that was always one of his strengths, right? I sort of joke in Wellington that you need to, or in New Zealand in general, you need to nick the ball well, that if you want to have a chance, just because the ball's going to do a fair bit. And he is someone amongst everything else. He was one of the best at nicking the ball well.
Yep.
Barely ever carried to the slips, often scored runs off them just because he took it so late and got into such good positions. But yeah, just a true gentleman of the game. There was a comment not that long ago where he's talking about his runs and that, hey, they're not my runs, they're of service to the team, and they're the team's runs, and that's what's sort of important. And it's like, if young cricketers can kind of look at that and try and embody that going forward, like, there's not a better example going around of how to play the game, right?
Yeah, exactly right. And to a point you made at the top of this pod, it was like, are we going to see someone in the New Zealand setup score 10,000 runs? Not because of the lack of capability, but potentially because of the lack of opportunity. If you look at someone like Alistair Cook versus a Ross Taylor, I think they both debuted in 2006, maybe 07. You look how much more opportunity Alistair Cook got than Ross Taylor. You look at Joe Root and Kane Williamson. I think Kane debuted in 2010 against India. And I think it was 2012, Joe Root, also in India. Again, similar in terms of age and obviously amazing capabilities, but the amount of games that Joe Root has played versus Kane Williamson, you give Kane another 50 games with his average, with his ability, and you're probably looking at least another 10 hundreds. And you put that on his career tally now, and you're now looking in the realms of a Dravid or a Ponting or a Cullis or a Santikara. So take nothing away, but given where the game's going, are there going to be more opportunities for the New Zealand guys? Probably not. If it was status quo, then so be it. But we're always going to be, we tour England every other year. We get 2 or 3 games at home. We get a couple of test matches, maybe 2 or 3 max, but we're not playing a 5-match series every other year. We're still in that frame of we're the appetizer before the main series, and we're still going to go and compete. But yeah, you look at someone like Rutchin as someone who would be up there as an opportunity to score those kind of big test match runs. And yeah, if you give the guys more time, they'd get there. Well, I think Tom Latham is now a current top run scorer, probably with 7,000 in the side, I think, roughly.
Yep.
So he's getting there. But I'd say, how much more time does Tom Latham have? Probably 2 or 3 years. Who knows? But yeah, it would have been nice to have someone in that 10,000 club, but obviously take nothing away from the achievements that Kane's got and the gravitas the man has on and off the field. He's going to be just the best, and he always has been the best representative for the game for New Zealand, no doubt. Getting very deep and honest on this podcast. It's quite nice, but I'm sure we will get back to absolute libelous comments before too long, before the end of this podcast. But yeah, I think it's worth being sincere about Kane Williamson because the guy's
yeah. I don't think there's any other way we could be.
Yeah,
but yeah, we got some catching up to do. I did quite enjoy. I think before the series started, Gray Nichols put out a post of Kane Williamson, and it was like 52 million sheep, 5 million people, 1 goat, and I thought that was quite good. Yeah, but no.
Have you seen the old photos of Kane with a puma?
Yep.
It doesn't look right, does it? It doesn't look.
Nah, that would have been very early days when he was
really old, but
just started playing for Indy. Yep.
Yeah, it almost looks like it's a null and void stuff. It doesn't actually look real. It could be AI for all I know. But it has to be Gray Nichols or Kane. If I see Puma, I'm putting that in the bin. Only people using Puma are Gilly, McCullum. That's about it. Thoughts? Maybe Watto with the blue one they've had a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and he had a stealth
red
for
one?
a while. I do remember the red stealth. Yeah, there was some
really going out cricket stuff now. Like I say, stuff mental illness now. But yeah, there's about 4 guys
for a while.
Yeah, Marlon Samuel, maybe.
Yeah. No, he's a Puma dude as well.
Yeah, Puma dude.
Yeah, definitely some blokes floating around using Puma. Stokes started off with Puma. Oh no,
again,
Stokes might have actually. I actually think I remember watching Stokes get a under 1900, and he's using Gray Nichols.
Gray Nick, okay. Some things just don't look right, do they? It's just it's like seeing Stephen Fleming like batting with a kookaburra. Be like, what is this? Put it in the bin. Or
you see it sometimes with guys coaching, right, where they're coaching and they're using like a different bat to hit catches, and so
I don't want this. Like if I see Justin Langer doing cuts and pulls, if he's not with a kookaburra, put that in the bin immediately. But yeah, anyway, enough about Kane and our fondness for the man. Stokes, Benjamin, what are we going to do about this guy and this setup? Obviously, we're a bit late to the party. Everyone knows what's going on. We're not breaking the story. But look, it probably wasn't their fault. It probably was instigated by someone, their Saracens player. But there always seems to be something happening in the space. And it makes you think, can there be smoke with no fire? Can we have just a couple of games without an incident? It's just, why is this always happening? And it's only this team. It's just bizarre. But it's not a fireable offence. And you're totally right. I hope it's not the end of Ben Stokes because he's been very honest and open about his mental health in the game, and he's taken that time away after the 2017 incident. But it's like one opportunity, and they finished the game at like midday. If you're gonna, go in and celebrate a win, that's great. But it's just all the time with these guys, and I just I don't know what to make of it. I mean, I know exactly what to make of it, but it just keeps happening. So yeah, fix that, please, Tails.
It's also not like they've got the means to rent out a club somewhere or a bar and just keep it kind of closed shop, internal, like stay within the hotel. Like I get that might not be their cup of tea, so to speak.
Cup of something, that's for sure.
Yeah. It's definitely they're definitely if we look back through how many incidents there've been, it's a thing. It's definitely a thing. There's no denying that at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
And even the way they've kind of applied as well, like, Root is now the captain, probably the right call, all in all.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
But then it's like, Harry Brook wasn't given that, captaincy because of what happened in Wellington. It's the biggest load of nonsense ever. Like, I get you're in damage control mode, but we all know it's optics, and you've got to go back to a little bit of, crisis mode, break glass stuff. But I mean, yeah, it's just.
See, I mean, like I think if say for whatever, like this completely separately, if you took if Stokes was permanently injured and he was no longer captain, I don't know if I'd be going to Harry Brook just yet. Like I think circling back to Root isn't like, I mean, he might not want to do it. He might be just super happy to stay in as player and he's happy to do it as kind of a one-off or whatever. But sometimes that break away from a leadership role like that actually just helps you to refresh. And now that the team's in a different place, he might actually be the perfect person to captain them. Like I do remember the commentary around, and a lot of it came from McCullum when he left the New Zealand captaincy, that he felt his job was to get the team believing, getting them winning games, knowing that they could compete and win, that he felt someone with Kane's temperament was the right person to take this team forward and get them to a point where they're more consistent. That I think Stokes is actually, like he's obviously done a good job and he's talismanic leader. His record's pretty good. Like I think I heard that he's like 55% win record, which given what it was before he started, and 17 games without a win, that's massive. And like I think there's one English captain with a better win record, Mike Brearley, who's, I think Stuart Broad made the point that he's got books written about him. No, he wrote books on captaincy, or someone made the point that he's just behind him. But I mean, if I was in charge, if I was Rob Key or Marcus North or McCullum who's making that decision, I would possibly be looking at a year or two of Root if you had to fill that spot with Brook staying underneath that and just growing into that leadership role. That would be my 2 cents.
Yeah, it's not a bad shout, honestly. Depends on, as you say, if Root wants to do it, if he just wants to be the captain, who wants to stay a foot soldier in the side. Well, he's got all the credit in the bank, Joe Root, to do whatever he wants, really. And speaking of credit in the bank, you're right. Ben Stokes has basically foregone his own individual career for the interests of the side. I don't think he'll probably score. I mean, he's got that 100 at 2023 Ashes off the back of the Bairstow situation, but he's not someone who's going to come in and focus on his own stats. Not that he may ever was, but he is their captain and he is their guy. And so I hope that he isn't in a position where he feels like he needs to give it away, because it would be an absolute shame for the game to lose this kind of rock star, if you like, of the game. And talk about ambassadors for the sport. I mean, he's right up there, absolutely. And I mean, not that we will know or may not even know, but I can't imagine Ben Stokes has instigated this incident. He's the guy. Yeah, they broke curfew. That's the main thing. And begs the question why they need a curfew if they haven't got a drinking problem in that side, or a drinking culture, I should say. People say drinking problem, but yeah, it'd be a shame if it was to end that way. And I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, I suppose it's just disappointing that we continue in this roller coaster of a baseball era where, one game after the first game with almost half the sides out, and it's just a new captain. Yeah, a bit of normal, once whatever the term is, normalcy would be great, I suppose, but it's not what baseball gives you. Anyway, we'll see where the cards fall on that one.
If it's a slightly different frame to look at things, and I'm completely aware that times change, and you've got to change with them to some extent. If there was the media scrutiny on cricket teams, like international cricket teams, 20 years ago, like you think about, like obviously there was a fair bit of scrutiny on like a Shane Warne, and that's just the stuff that people know about. That I imagine there was all sorts of things going on in those sort of team environments and whatnot that in a lot of cases probably would have been significantly worse than some of this stuff. It's probably quite a tricky space to navigate, and that is where I wonder if they need to look at something like they just get their own space and keep it internal. And I mean, you don't want to lose that. This is coming from a bloke that doesn't even drink as well. I don't know why I'm sort of coming at it and trying to save the English cricket team's drinking culture. But
you can be a specialist in whatever field we want.
Yeah, that they're a drinking team with a cricket problem, and I think they're allowed to do that at some extent. Yeah, the curfew thing's weird. It's so weird. Like you're not trusting grown men, and yep, they've lost that trust a little bit. But yeah, we can go around in circles this forever. But let's get on to the next thing. Yeah,
but I think it just kind of shows that people do care about the state of the game, and we probably just want to focus on the actual cricket for once. We don't want it to be a circus. We don't want another sandpaper gate incident or whatever we want to call it. We want to focus on the game and see some good cricket being played, and that be the story. Anyway, well, speaking of cricket being the story, New Zealand's at the Women's 2020 World Cup. So defending champs, obviously, so we will expect nothing but success from this team from here on out. First up game against West Indies, and 7 opportunities in the field, catching run-outs, did not go the way we wanted them to go, put it that way. And ultimately it did cost the girls the game. So New Zealand batted first, 162 for 6, runs for Gaze, Halliday and Green. A decent score, I think, in those conditions. And West Indies came out and absolutely boshed it. Noted that we gave them a bit of a helping hand in the field. So Matthews, 48, and Campbell, 90 red. Jess Kerr to the only wickets. So no wickets for kind of the usual stars and Amelia Kerr and whatnot. And then a run out in the mix as well. So not the best start for the team, but as we go to where Sri Lanka up next, so an opportunity going to get back on track. But it is a World Cup, as we've seen, not just in this code, but in other codes, it's a long tournament. So opportunity to get back on track, hopefully.
To steal a leaf out of the Australians' books, you got to peak at the right time, mate.
Absolutely. If you peak too early, you are just what are you up to?
One thing on the absolutely boshed it, like obviously Campbell for the West Indies batted well, 90 odd not out. Won it with 1 ball to spare. Like 9. There's literally 1 ball left in the.
I think last over.
I don't think, because I think that was the first. I think that was the first game that we have played in the T20 World Cups without Susie Bates. I think I saw something.
It was probably someone else. Apology for getting that wrong. Wonderful inside, but yeah, it was one of the last over. I think it was 4 to win for the West Indies, and they got it actually on the last ball.
Yeah. So the fact that the margin was that fine, like one of those 7 opportunities, probably potentially changes that outcome, which is a bit disappointing. But yeah, I guess they'll bounce back. And that was something with the T20 World Cup, the last one, that they didn't have a particularly good run in. That I think, to be perfectly honest, the way things were going, like if they hadn't won that World Cup, there would have been people out of jobs. It was getting pretty grim there, and then they turned it around and did particularly well.
Turned over the Sathers in the final, so good to see some things never change.
Yeah.
Except in rugby, they win too many in that. But anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm sure they'll bounce back, and I mean, it's not like they've lost by sort of 50 runs or anything like that. Good close game. They tighten up a little bit, but they should be able to get on a bit of a roll, you'd like to think.
And you'd expect them to turn over Sri Lanka, not easily, but you'd expect that to be the launching pad for hopefully a bit of a run. Depends on who they come up against as well. I think that last World Cup, they did lose, I think, to Australia early doors. And I think we just happened to, was it England in the semi-final? And then South Africa in the final. But as you say, teams can get on a run And that's what we need to do, basically, from here on out. Bit of Australian 1999 spec. Bit of Lance Klusener, the old last ball there. Now, speaking of England and New Zealanders, you've got to take on a few players in the domestic scene over in the UK. Maybe a bit of an overview to see how the guys are going.
Yeah, there's not too many over there at the moment, but probably the two call-outs from the last week. Nick Kelly made first innings 70-odd against a pretty strong Essex attack. Jamie Porter, who'd been around the England squad a little bit, hasn't played, but I mean a few years back now. Simon Harmer, the South African off-spinner, who's just been an absolute colossus for Essex for the last few years. I think Sam Cook might be floating around there as well. So that was good to see. Always good to see guys plying their trade over there. And Christian Clark took 6 for, like, it was a bit of a run fest against Northants. The opening the bowling first game for Gloucestershire, who I think Shane Jurgensen, the Wellington coach, has also had some involvement with this season as well. I think he's been doing a little bit of work with their bowlers. So cool to see a bit of a connection there. But yeah, like as a good young quick bowler who's played a couple of one-dayers, him getting an opportunity to kind of go over and being overseas there and play a couple of games, pretty exciting. And to start with a 6 for as well. Like, although, yeah, and he did bowl pretty well. I think Northants made a few, like they might have made 450, 500, but yeah, good for his development, good exposure for guys who are going to be in and around that black cap side in the years to come.
Yeah, well, I think he was there. He may have got injured in that India series, that one-day series last year or start of this year, whenever it took place. He was there or thereabouts, bowling very well and even contributing a bit with the bat as well. So, yeah, good to see him back on the wall, so to speak.
Yeah. Now, the other interesting thing, and we were talking about this before recording, but the what we call it the byplay, or the current situation around the qualifiers for the Olympics. The fact there's going to be, as I understand, there's going to be one qualifier from each region, with one coming from Oceania. It was talked about in the last T20 World Cup that if New Zealand made it through to a certain point, we'd leapfrog Australia and that we'd be through. They then pushed back the qualification window that they said it would be confirmed in the first quarter of 2026. Still hasn't been confirmed. And it sounds like, I think if Australia win a couple of these T20s against Bangladesh that are coming up, they might leapfrog us in the rankings. So it wouldn't be surprising if the day after that happens that, oh, yep, we've confirmed our qualifiers, that they're just trying to keep that door open for them, which does feel like the deck stacks slightly against us, which is a bit frustrating.
Now we're talking. Yeah. We're talking conspiracy theories,
poor us.
LA Olympics. Yeah. Steve Smith's surely in the mix with his New York gold chains on and his oat milk and his millions of dollars.
So, I mean, he's hoping for Bangladesh to skittle them for 70, and Shanto kind of bangs a quick 50 and happy days. That would do us a favour. Yeah, so, no, it's interesting.
Well, yeah, I suppose one thing we should also acknowledge is that don't keep your eye off Samoa qualifying ahead of us as well. Ross Taylor in the mix now. Don't even take the eyes off those guys. But as I've always said, Bangladesh, my favourite team, our favourite team on the pod. So they'll get the job done for us. Don't worry.
Okay. Yeah, for this week only. Our favourite T20 side. Yeah.
I've always.
Are you aware that there's a nine-eye player that's played for Samoa, like recently?
Yes.
An up and coming.
I am aware.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
I haven't met the young man, but I hope to one day. But no, how good? That's amazing.
Yeah.
We have an international player in our midst. Right. Well, I think that'll basically do it for episode 3. But we have come full circle and we have put a conspiracy theory out there. So forget all that sincere chat about Kane Williamson. We are back to libelous comments and potentially getting cancelled. Well, Tails, that's it from you, mate. I've got nothing else for our listeners. So
final call out from it, or a shout out, should I say? We'll try and make a bit of a regular thing of it. But big shout out Jack Lamb, who's one of the young pups at Stream, who was very, very complimentary towards the podcast. I've been listening to it while he was throwing some tin around in the gym. Also got a very good
man.
Instagram photography page, Lamb Flicks, so you can check that out and give him a follow if you're interested. But yeah, good work, Lammy. Yeah, nice, sweet, good work. Another one in the books,
You're
mate.
right. Another one in the books. Well, fingers crossed, Black Caps get the job done. Shunto, our main man, gets the job done against the Aussies. And watch out for Samoa, is all I'm saying.